hold on. You sound a little upset. You mad, huh? My crew too fresh. You mad, huh? See us flexing in these streets. You mad, huh? Diversity of thought. You mad, huh? Educated black men. You mad, huh? Philly won the Super Bowl. You mad, huh? Dallas blew 60 mil. You mad, huh? Aggie pride in your face. You mad, huh? 5 newts in this group. You mad, huh? Welcome to the 11th episode of the You Bad Huh podcast, conceived out of brotherhood and presented with love. So I want to introduce our panelists for this week again, our normal crew. We've got Anthony Humphrey, we've got Richard Free, Ken Merritt, Raymond Cooper, and Tyron Bond, and myself, Paul Fleming. And we have a somewhat overlooked topic, which is Christian nationalism. And Ken brought this to me a while back, and we just haven't been able to cover it, but it is a nuanced discussion to some degree. Depends on how you look at it. But I just want to put something on the screen here in terms of what is Christian nationalism, because you ask one person, you might get one explanation. You ask another person, you might get a different explanation. So this is what I found up to this at this point. So this is kind of the standard definition that you might find. Christian nationalism, a form of religious nationalism that focuses on promoting the Christian views of its followers in order to achieve prominence or dominance in political, cultural, and social life. It says in countries with the state church, Christian nationalists seek to preserve the status of the Christian state. So seems pretty, basic on its face. But I also found this definition or this kind of response to Christian nationalism. This is from a website called Christians Against Christian Nationalism. So it says Christian nationalism seeks to merge Christian and American identities, distorting both the Christian faith and America's constitutional democracy. Christian nationalism demands Christianity be privileged by the state, implies to be a good American, one must be Christian. Now, this is probably a more accurate description from what I've seen based on a couple of things that are happening now in society. And then I've got one more definition I want to drop out here, because more often than not, Christian nationalism is equated with white nationalism, white nationalist. So they've kind of blended into each other. And of course, we pretty much know what white nationalists are, but it's simply a group, groups that espouse that white supremacist and white separatist ideologies. They often focus on alleged inferiority of people of color. They frequently can't claim that white people are unfairly persecuted by society. And then they're even the victims of racial genocide, being white people. Since the primary goal is to create a white ethno-state. So, Christian nationalism almost equated to white nationalism in some people's eyes. So I just want to talk about, what we feel about this, where we think the whole Christian nationalism ideology resides in society. Is it the same as white nationalism? Is it something that's valid? Or is it just people kind of holding up Christianity to try to achieve their goals that may not be as pure as the Christian faith? So Ken, I'm going to let you kick this off because you're the one that brought this to the panel. So I'm going to let you start off with this case.
It's a great question, P, that you asked to start this. And I like the definitions. I think there were things in the first definition plus the start of the second definition that define kind of the way I think about Christian nationalism. Because in short, to me, what it's become is essentially a movement. It is a movement, a power movement, to make sure that Christians, based off their kind of religious beliefs, expound, on laws and make laws that kind of fit their social and kind of everyday beliefs into our kind of everyday system. So yeah, in the simplest way I think about it, it is a movement. Now, where it was, whether it was meant to be before or not, I mean, it was forever. It seems in this country, we separation of church and state, right? And we actually gave grace to people who fundamentally believed in other religions, right? But in recent times, it seems like in the last, say, since the 80s, and certainly picked up momentum, that, and some people, from what I kind of read, it came out of, the way, hippies and folks behaved in the 60s and 70s that created a movement that we kind of see today, that it has gained so much pace that it's all the way up. Now there's a Supreme Court case, around this topic. And so, yeah, it's a movement. And then the last part I'll just touch on quickly, so I can, see the floor to other folks. But where I see the overlap between this and white nationalism is that they both are movements. They both are efforts. They both are power plays to maintain certain kind of ways of positioning in the U.S. society, meaning, but one puts Christians first, other put kind of say white men first, right? I do think they're different because there are a whole lot of Black folks that I know who would not associate themselves with white nationalism, but they're damn sure Christian nationalists.
Gotcha. All right. So Rick, I know you're on your journey with Christ. So why don't you chime in? How do you feel about this whole topic?
This is such a wide spectrum. In my walk with Christ, the more you read First Kings, Second Kings, Corinthians, Chronicles, you read enough stories about how the nations would steer away from God, and they would not be following his principles, and there would be punishment for that. So I guess when I think about it, I think about not only are they driven by the Great Commission that tells believers that we're supposed to share the good news and bring others to the warm embrace of Christ and that lifestyle. There's motivation to not only do that, but to have your country operate in that sense. But if you just look at the basic laws that are on the books, they come from a Judeo-Christian 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery. All of these things are laws that are on the books already.
Go ahead, continue.
Well, you sent a video, and that's listening to what Ken said, and in the video that you sent prior to this, and I hope you drop it down in the links when you post. The video was talking about the white nationalists and how they wanted their own territory in Tennessee.
Christian nationalists who want to turn a small Middle Tennessee community into their base of operations.
Like all of our heroes were way more racist than we're allowed to be today.
Together, the pair host what they bill as the #1 Christian nationalist podcast in the world.
God made men to rule, period. That's the world God made. If you don't like it, take it up with him.
The question is there room for like-minded Christians and patriots in Tennessee? Yes, there's an imperative for like-minded Christians to gather and fight with us. Like, we need Christian nationalism in one state. Like, that's what we need.
They're on the wrong path. That's not what God didn't tell us, to separate ourselves. Now, he does say that we should separate ourselves in a sense, but I don't think he meant it in the way that they're going about it. Not in a country that has every walk of life, right? I mean, we're supposed to spread the good news. And for those who don't want to listen, we are supposed to wipe the dust off our feet and keep it moving, not to place our pearls before swine. But the main thing about it is this stuff doesn't grow in a vacuum where people all of a sudden say, you know what, I want to be separate. They're seeing a lot of things going on that they don't want to be a party to. I mean, we've got groups that are clamoring to be able to kill their own baby. I mean, Old Testament, I believe in Leviticus, it talks about people sacrificing their babies to Moloch. Now, Planned Parenthood doesn't tell you, hey, when we destroy these babies, we're going to go, this is part of a sacrifice to Moloch. But the battle has never ended between Satan and his demons and those who are striving to go to heaven. It didn't end. It just isn't in your face saying this is this and this is this. This is a very heavy topic, because I do think that there is a mixture of the two. I like the fact that we didn't conflate it, but it's not crazy that people want to separate from a lot of evil and wickedness.
Okay, so that's a great point, Rich. And I've got something else I want to share with you, because we talk about them being two separate things, but it seems as though going forward, these two things are kind of trying to be melded together. It seems like these white nationalists are somewhat hijacking Christian nationalism. And here's a prime example. And we've talked about this person, Rich, Laura Loomer. Right, she is a far right political activist. She's probably one of the most detested people, as you'll notice here. Marjorie Taylor Greene, right, claims that she is mentally unstable, right, and a documented liar, which is true to a degree.
Say that again.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. You know who Marjorie Taylor Greene is.
I was saying that's why I had to hear it again to make sure I heard you right.
Exactly. So, and here's my point. This woman has Donald Trump's ear, and she is a proclaimed, Christian nationalist. That's who she supports.
And as your next member of Congress, you have my commitment that I am going to be your fighter. I am going to stand up for the Judeo-Christian values that our country was founded upon, and I will fight for you. I will fight for your families, and I will fight for Christian nationalism.
I do know this, that her rhetoric and her tone does not match the base, does not match MAGA, does not match most Republicans I know, and I am completely denouncing it. I'm over it, and I would encourage anyone else that matches her statements to stop.
But I think that we have people infiltrating that movement, and they're almost melding together, and they're almost taking that over. Because the video that I sent you guys, again, I'll post that. I'll post a link here in the final edit. But those people that moved to that town or that county in Tennessee are under that same guise. They claim that they're purely Christian ideals that they're pushing, and people fall for that. They try to clean themselves up. They have these podcasts that where they speak to some of these topics, and they try to make things so very soft and easy. But underneath is this sinister path. So that's why I think we have to be careful of, because there's nothing wrong with being Christian. I think from what I can tell, everyone on this podcast is Christian. I think we may look at things differently, but I think this Christian nationalism movement is really something to be concerned about because they hold up Christianity, and it's to disguise something else, in my opinion.
So Paul, I think my personal thought is these things bleed from the start of the United States, right? If you go back and you look at slavery, Christianity was distorted in slavery as well, right? And with regards to white nationalists or Christian nationalists, I think these things bleed the same things, right? Ultimately, they get to the same end results. So you start to look at what they believe. You know, they oppose equality for people of color, women, LGBTQ. It is still a form of supremacy, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if people really dig down to understand that, but all roads lead to that. It's still supremacy, and you can label it, you know, Christian nationalist, white nationalist. You're still ultimately keeping people in some form of bondage, because equality is never the end game, right? It's never the end game. So when I think about it, I think Ken is right. There are movements, and the backlash is against America and the progression of America. Right? We don't want progression. We want the same format that we were built upon, and whatever they choose to call it, in my eyes, is still supremacy. And you know, it's ultimately a loss of power is what they're concerned about.
Right. Yeah.
So we can't lose focus of that. And I don't care how they put Band-Aids on it and call it these different things. It's still the same old thing.
Can you elaborate on when you say progression? Can you elaborate on specifics?
So when I say progression, Rich, I'm talking equality for all these groups, African American, women, people of color, you know,
transgender folks.
I'm sorry?
I said transgender folks.
Let's just put transgender, they all fall under the same umbrella. And that's their hope. Their hope is to keep those things down, keep us in power or them in power, and maintain the level of fundamentalists of what they deem to be correct. Right. That's it.
Rich, I don't think what Quake is saying is too different from what you were calling evils before. I mean, let's just put it out there, right? When you go on about bathrooms and those kind of things, I think, Quake, keep me honest, that's at least when I talk about progress. I'm talking about progress to where people who traditionally, for whatever reason, whether it's because of your position in this country or because your religious beliefs, your rights have been suppressed under those people higher up in the preserve movement. That's what we're talking about.
Absolutely. And again, who's to say your way is right? You can't dictate what people believe and call religion, right? That's a personal choice. You can call him God, you can call him Yahweh, you can call him
who the judge and jury.
What have you, Rich? I'm not stealing that away, right? I'm not taking that away.
Did Sodom and Gomorrah happen?
Yeah.
Did Sodom and Gomorrah happen?
There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So I've got a question.
Did they get through it?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Yep. So
go ahead.
Whoa, Paul, let him talk. I got to hear this.
No. I'm just saying. I agree with a lot of. I'm against a lot of things that you. I agree with you on a lot of those points. But my point, we're not the judge.
I'm not trying to be the judge.
You are. No, I'm not saying you. I'm saying when we try to. You can't just force this upon them. Our job is to teach them, show them the way we live, and if they choose, it's one thing about it. It's still, the Bible says free will.
That's
End
right.
of the day. End of the day.
It does
You
say
can do
free
all
will, but
no, don't but.
In order
Your
for
job is to teach them, show them, and let them see the light. If they don't, then they have to worry about that and deal with that. Okay? Because I got enough of my own issues. Okay?
We all
do.
So I know that's what I'm saying. So it's mighty funny. We can pick and choose, but don't act like your closet is all clean. Okay? So you can have all this walk you're doing, but we all do some things and see some things, and so again, that is on you. So teach them. I'm not saying that, but you can't shun them. You can't, because you can force all that away, but it's not going to change it. People won't change unless they want to be changed. People won't change unless they want to be changed. Again, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I mean, when it comes down to that, I don't agree with some of it, but it's not my job. I can have those talks. I never had talks with quite a few.
But why
I can't force it.
Why is it treated as progress? Why is that a good thing?
Call it what you want to call it.
When you encourage people to run straight toward the gates of hell,
how
is that progress?
How are you encouraging that, Rich?
When you bow down to it, when you don't take a stand and say, no, this is a limit that we're not willing to
Again,
show.
you're missing the freedom of choice.
No,
right?
No, they're free. Do you all remember at one time when they said all they wanted to do was be able to get married? Do you remember that?
Yes.
That's all we want to do.
Yes.
Now they want you to allow for their books to be in the elementary school.
Okay.
Oh, that's okay?
Yeah. Why is it not? And why is it?
So
Okay.
who?
You know
who
what
says
you're
that's not okay?
What you're arguing is that you and your belief should be the power.
No.
Yes, it is. That's what you're saying.
I believe that if a parent wants to expose their child to that wickedness, let them do it on their own dime.
Okay, and what about the parents?
Not from my taxpayer dollars.
With all due respect,
push that.
With all due respect,
they wanted the Bibles removed from the schools. No. They wanted the corporal punishment out of the schools. They removed everything out of the schools.
That's not what you're arguing. That's not what you're arguing. You're arguing that not only can if those people teach what they want, but society can't put that book in a public place for people to read. You are arguing for your constant supremacy because of your religious beliefs. Why come you just can't acknowledge that point?
There is only one faith system that is okay with what you all are okay with, and it's Satanism. You listen, the Hindus, the Buddhists, the Muslims, they don't push none of that mess. It's settled science. It's 2,000 years of science that men don't go into women's restrooms. Are y'all kidding me? Are y'all serious? What birthday say? Are we finished? Or are we true? I mean, come on, gentlemen. You all think it's okay? And it's our watch, gentlemen.
There you go again.
The generations that follow us, they're going to say, what happened?
Oh, they definitely going to say that.
We were okay with everything.
They're definitely going to say that.
We were okay with everything.
So can I make a point here? So the whole bathroom thing started, I think, in North Carolina. No one was actually complaining about that. The legislature made that a thing. So that's what they want to mention. But another thing is, this is America, right? Everybody isn't religious. Everybody doesn't believe in God, right?
Pause right there, Paul. Yep. Please take a pause right there. Rich, is that okay?
Is that okay?
Absolutely. I mean, listen.
Okay. If you no. Just there's no need to justification behind that.
Don't mistake my loyalty and love for Christ to be a scenario where I can't take a stand for what He showed me to be right.
But what happens, Rich, is that the references to Christian nation and the weaponization of the Bible is not just what your beliefs are. It's now picked up in campaign speeches. It's used for scripture to justify everything from anti-immigration to banning books, right? And so what it creates is a sense of divine entitlement where policy becomes not just political, but ordained by God, as you said, right? So now we're mixing the two. And that's the reason why we have separation of church and state. We're talking about coordinated political movement right now that sees religious identity as a gateway to unchecked power. And that's where we're going.
So something else I want to mention is that, everyone's not Christian for sure. We know that. Everyone is not religious, right? That's their choice. Okay. But let's say you do decide to ban these books from a school, right? Those kids that may be gay or may be transgender, they're still going to the school, right? You can't really run from these topics. You can't suppress them. And why are you shaking your head? No, Rich. I mean, is that not true? You're going to have gay people in schools. Listen, in the first grade, there was a kid named. Listen, in the first grade, there was a kid named in my class.
Wow.
He was a flame. Yeah, I know that's his name. He was a flaming gay. Listen, hold on. This is what I'm saying. He was a flaming gay kid in 1975 or 76. Flaming gay kid. Whether you have a book in the library or not, he's coming to school every day. Right? There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, but I think you're missing the point. Okay. Everybody has a proclivity for sin of some sort. Okay. What I'm saying is, I know the power of Christ to remove that. All right. It can be done. If you believe in Christ and his true power, you can be cured of that.
So you think it's a choice, Rich?
Yes.
So
you think
Rich,
all gay people choose to be gay?
But Rich, what if they don't? What if they don't want to? Hold on for a second.
Listen. It might be unbelievable to you.
Hold on for a second. What if that person doesn't choose to be cured? What if they don't want to be?
That's their choice. That's their choice. But my argument is this: you got a lot of people coming up who aren't sure, and you are bringing these books and introducing these books. You kidding me? Like Dwayne Wade's son. That man will stand before God. He will be held accountable for that mess.
I got you, but
supposed to train up a child in a way that.
But is that book gonna change that situation?
You think the book made him gay?
It ain't gonna change that situation. To the point you simplifying it. Like everybody going to the book and reading it is gonna change. No, you hold on. So you act like because the book is in the library, that's gonna change somebody. By taking that book away, man, we got these phones and everything else they have privilege.
Bruh.
So please stop.
There have been books. There have been books that have steered and directed people. Yes.
And there have been books people were gay before books were ever published.
I just acknowledge that all of us have a proclivity for all kinds of sin. All right, all of us do. We all are born we are all born in iniquity. All of us have issues that we're dealing with. But I'm here to tell you, as a believer in Christ and the power of prayer, I believe that those tendencies can be removed. And
I agree with you 100%.
We agree whether we agree with that or not. I think Ty said it best. Ty agrees with everything you said there, right? And in some place where Pete said we're all Christians. What we're talking about here is whether or not we should be imposing those beliefs to a point where we are suppressing others. Okay, so while you're, with all due respect to you, brother, I love you. I love the way you express your walk with Christ here. You're way ahead of me, and I'm envious of that. But this point that we're on right now is very core to me because it is an overstep. It is an overstep that you and people like you have that is running as many of us away as it is helping. You are imposing on people's rights, their tendencies, and what in many ways keeps them from being their authentic self because of your beliefs.
Yeah, well, I mean,
So-
my beliefs are formed by the great creator. I mean, the scripture, I am informed to snatch the brethren from the fire. I think it's Jude, 1st chapter, 27th verse. You're not supposed to sin. You're not supposed to encourage people on things. Listen, if you guys love me and you found out I was out here messing around with another woman, right? When you saw me,
on my damn business.
okay, well, that might be you. What about you, Paul? Yeah, well, see, I don't want that kind of love. I want the kind of love that wants to see me on the other side of this, because this here is short.
So, Rich, here's the thing, right? When people, and this is personal, I've had these discussions with people. No matter what you share, people still get to choose what they do.
I don't disagree with that.
You can encourage them to go home, be faithful, to do whatever.
I don't disagree with that.
And they will do whatever they decide.
I totally agree. Listen.
So you have to fulfill your Christian obligation by encouraging them to do what's right. And at that point, Rich, it's out your hands.
Absolutely. And
you don't bear that burden. That blood does not run on you.
You just said exactly what I'm saying. If we are able to steer the books out of the library, then yeah, that's great. If it doesn't happen, then I guess we just got to deal with it.
Okay. So Hub has something he wants to throw in here.
Man, I at this point I can't even remember what it was. But it was. I think it was in reference to Rich's stepping out story. But he said he would want someone to come in and pull him out of that. But the link that I had was you would want someone to pull you out of that, and you would want them to understand why you did what you did. Whether it's right or wrong, then you got to make that decision. You may be having troubles at home. You may be your wife may be talking shit to you. Wait a minute, let me finish. Your wife may have stepped out on you. We don't know the reason why. But part of that question is, hey, why are you doing this? And the same respect that someone that you would expect us to ask you this question before we pulled you out is the same thing as having those books available for someone to understand who they are, because they are having that feeling. And if it's not what they should be doing, then that's a decision they still have to make. At that point, you still have to make the decision. Am I going back home? Am I going home with this other chick? Right?
Bruh,
it's the same thing, bro.
Those books are not, they not what you thinking, bro.
Bro, I've seen the books.
I don't know why you act like
I got a brother in my. I don't know why you think people don't have the same accent.
You turned it into a book that encourages them about who he is. Now they be like, Tommy sticks it in.
Okay,
no,
bro.
Okay, so what about the one that they're sticking into? So it's okay for them to see the ones where they're sticking into a man.
No,
or woman.
that ain't good.
That's fine, right?
That
take them books out there. Then take all books on sex out there. If that's what you want to do,
okay.
So now it's better because of that. So the same book only is heterosexual. It's better than when it's homosexual.
Listen,
what you
because
think?
those aren't getting removed.
Because I don't want my kids to see the other ones either.
Hey, listen.
So what about those books?
Those
and the bursting. What about those books being removed?
Don't say it now. We'll take those books out then.
But missing in all of this, and I promise I'm going to bring it back, but missing in all of this is the authoritative nature in which things are being done that are impinging on the rights that we are supposed to have as human beings.
But you can't expect, what did we learn when we were young?
Okay.
There's an opposite action. For every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. The stuff that we've been seeing here last 10 years that was taboo has now become commonplace. Don't
whose
act
place?
like we had
But whose place is that? Is that the government? Should we appoint political leaders? Should we appoint political leaders to drive that decision?
Especially some of the political leaders we got in place.
Because if you listen to the basis for quite a few Trump supporters, they use that as their reason for supporting him. So should we use that as our basis for selecting our political leaders who then utilize that authoritative power to take choices away from people?
Legislation cannot force morality.
Stop, Rich. Stop.
Legislation cannot force morality. I'm going somewhere. Y'all get to go on these nice soliloquies. I start to try to explain mine, and it gets
before you dive into it, Rich, I have two things I wanted to point out. So you mentioned things that were taboo 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Remember, interracial marriage was taboo.
Hold on,
Rich. Let me finish my thought. Rich, let me finish my thought. I'm not done. Okay. First thing is that was something that was seen as taboo, and even today it kind of is. All right, that's one thing. But another thing is let's stop off that. Let's say they take the books out. Texas has a proposed bill that teachers must post the 10 Commandments in their rooms. Is that, now I'm Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in God. I don't think that is okay.
Why?
Because this country, everyone is not Christian.
Okay.
Hold on. Why do we need the 10 Commandments versus something from the Quran?
Well, you've removed punishment from the school. You've removed punishment from the school. You remove any kind of moral standard or code. What in the 10 Commandments?
Rich.
What in the 10 Commandments offends you? Why does the
10 Commandments
name one of the commandments that offend you?
It's not about the commandments offending.
Why does the
if it doesn't offend, what's the
Rich?
problem?
I'm not done. I'm
It's
asking
not
you a
going to
question.
offend Paul, but what if it offends someone who is not where Christianity is not their primary?
Don't look at it. Don't look at it.
That's ridiculous.
They have
That's
rainbow
ridiculous.
flags in every
That's ridiculous.
classroom.
No, they don't. They don't.
You're being disingenuous. You're being disingenuous.
They don't.
If those commandments came from the Quran, you would not be saying this.
No, I wouldn't.
Even if they said the exact same thing.
A newsflash. I'm not a Muslim. I'm a Christian. Okay.
Yeah, but that's the problem.
Let's be precise.
That's kind of the problem.
Everybody here is a Christian. You're a Christian nationalist, is what you are.
I'm a Christian black nationalist.
You sound just like him.
I thought race didn't matter, Rich.
It doesn't. It just depends on what it is.
But it matters to me when we see over the last how many millions of black babies are aborted on a regular basis?
How many white babies?
Black babies.
All of them. All of them.
Black babies.
Rich,
Black,
are you going to raise those kids?
No.
Those people have to make a personal choice for themselves.
Yeah, why black babies?
He's going to support the bill that cut them being on Medicaid, SNAP, and all the other things too. But they should be born because that's his religious belief. His religious
we don't
belief.
give a shit about them once they're here.
Don't get caught up in the weeds now.
Then they go into a system where you still don't care about them.
Yeah, we want them here, and then don't teach. Okay. Then don't teach, and please don't teach about them. Please don't tell the history. That's what they've been through.
But we can't even tell them about the 10 Commandments. That's offensive, right?
No, you can tell them all day.
It's Rich.
We can't post it though.
That should not be
offensive.
They can go to the library and read it.
Rich, I never said it was offensive. I never said it was offensive. But everyone is not religious. Everyone doesn't want to be religious. You do not have to force Christianity on people. They will come to Christianity themselves.
Everybody doesn't want to learn.
Rich,
just flip it, right? Because you're Rich is all about so what? Okay, not 10 Commandments. It's coming from the Quran. It's coming from Buddha. It's coming from somewhere else.
I got an issue with that. Yeah, I got an issue.
That's what we're talking about. You just acknowledge the issue that it has to be your way, your power, your position, and not the others. That's
because he is the King of all kings. He's my savior. He's your savior too, right?
That's fine for you to believe too, right? That's fine, Rich. But everybody doesn't follow that.
Everything.
Everybody doesn't follow. That's why church and state should be separate. That is exactly what. That's why if you look at these Muslim countries where religion guides everything, look at how hard those countries are for people to live in. Right.
But you know what gets me though? You guys didn't even acknowledge like all the laws that are on the books. I mean, standard laws. They come from Judeo-Christian. They come
a lot of them are common
those
sense.
standards, Paul, came from the scripture.
But a lot of them are common sense.
So we acknowledge that.
So
do you acknowledge this country was built on the fundamental basis of separating church and state?
That's fine, but the principles of
but
the principles.
Go ahead.
Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. That's
He's
common
getting the
sense.
basic because you got a lot of other commandments that you don't go to
You're
jail
saying
for.
it's common sense, but let me ask you this.
It's common sense.
Wait, you're saying it's common sense, but what if it's offensive to people not to be able to kill? Like they want to kill, Paul.
Rich.
Shouldn't we just let them?
For what I never said the 10 Commandments was offensive.
Offensive in any way.
Right. But
Okay.
it is favoring one religion over another. And this is a country where religion is supposed to be something that's afforded to people for people to follow whatever religion they want if they want to follow a religion.
Land of the free, statue of liberty.
What Christian nationalism wants is for this country to be guided by the Bible and Christian laws only, right? And I think when you do that, you put us in a bad spot because people are going to overstep and do exactly what you see in these other countries.
But
right?
let me ask you what harms. So you guys are saying that not allowing. Well, it's not that they're not allowed. They're welcome to do all these things.
No.
Welcome to live their lifestyle.
No.
Nobody's saying they can't live their lifestyle. We just ain't gonna promote it.
So
but you're promoting yours.
Let me give you an example you're looking for when it comes to books. You have said that you don't want taxpayer money paying for books that has references, I guess, into homosexuality in it. Is that correct?
Not references. These are the books that they have said that they were going to remove, Kim, were the ones where it was darn near pornographic, where they're basically telling these kids how to perform the acts.
That sounds extreme, but okay, I will. Fine.
A couple of them
were. But you do want taxpayer money to pay for talking about the Bible in schools, in places.
Yeah.
And you don't see how that is.
I don't know. You tell me a portion of scripture that would harm somebody. You tell me what would hurt them.
But aren't we supposed to? They bring up the Constitution constantly. Aren't we supposed to also be about the Constitution as well, like freedom of religion, right? There is no mention of God or Jesus Christ or God in the Constitution at all.
By design.
Right?
But
exactly.
It is a republic, and a republic needs a body of faith. They need a
who get to choose
society of faith.
So you call it a body of faith when we say a body of rights, but one is good in your mind, the other one's not, and that's the problem.
No, I listen. You guys. I'm saying they are free to live as they choose. I just don't think.
Not really.
That's not what you're saying. That's not what
I
you're
just don't think there's harm in promoting.
They're free to live as they choose as long as they don't cross one of your lines, like put a book in a school.
Right.
That's what you're
or what if they want to be in the military?
Well, this is the thing.
They can't no longer do that.
Listen, I don't think we're gonna meet each other on this. Much like a lot of the other topics. I do know that historically, the Word of God he's very adamant about punishment, corporate punishment of societies that steer away from his principle. From, the manual says that it's a man and a woman. It's not man and man or woman and woman. There's multiple scriptures that speak against it. Now, there's a lot of people that get offended by that, right? But they don't have any problem in this country being able to do it. Nobody's throwing them off of roofs. Nobody's doing anything to them physically, except to say we're not gonna push this agenda.
Actually, they are doing that to people. I know a gay dude that got stabbed because he was gay.
Yeah.
I mean, here's my whole point about it is this country, you're supposed to be able to live your life as you want to live.
And they can.
And no, they can't. If there was a gay person or transgender person in the military, they have a problem now, right? They can no longer be in the military. Then it's going to come to, well, you cannot allow people to rent from you that are gay, or you can't allow people to get loans because. And I'm not one that pushes gay rights by any means. Hold on, fellas. Let me get my thought out. Let me get my thought out, right? It's about being fair to people. That's, in my opinion, it's about being fair to people. And just because you don't like the lifestyle doesn't mean that you should govern these people's lives, right? That's how I see it.
You guys keep saying we're trying to govern their lives.
Hold on, Rich. Hold on. We definitely are. We definitely are. For sure.
Can I tweet one word? Because
go ahead.
As someone who's done a lot of DEI work, the thing isn't, fairness is sometimes subjective, but what you can't argue is equality. And what I've been going back and forth with you on here on Rich is things equality. You think that certain things are right for you as a Christian and not right for someone as a gay, right? That's not equality. That's the issue here, right? That's why at the end of the day, and you won't love this, but at the end of the day, the reason there's conflation between Christian nationalism and white nationalism is because they are both power movements to maintain supremacy and suppress the equality of those folks who are not in that thing. Religion one, white men, white males, and others. And at the end of the day, in almost every way you look at it, dating all the way back to when this went to the Supreme Court in the Civil Rights Act of 1965, right, was about equality. And equality included things like you cannot discriminate on things, not only race, but also religion. And right now, what you and your folks want to do is erase that. Erase what has happened in this country ever since the founding. In fact, the breakaway from England was based off the King of England in those times was also imposing his religion on what was happening over here.
And putting on blinders to the slippery slope of all the other rights that were fought in that bill that could easily be justified to be taken away because you took those away. You've now set precedents. And
Which is more the conversation we had earlier. You start with one, and all of a sudden you push it as far as you can push it. And that's, so you keep saying that's all it is the book. But once you get the book, there's something next.
Very well said,
you best believe we're not going to stop at the book. It's not. And you know it too. You're going to try to push, and just like some of the videos he sent. They need to come over to us. What they're saying.
So I know that there are Russian generals, Chinese generals that were cackling when they saw our soldiers walking around in, men who have transitioned into women, that we're a joke. We are a joke. It was so much better when Bill Clinton, I didn't even like that bill, but when he had Don't Ask, Don't Tell, at least you could keep the ethos of the military on a level where everybody could have an opportunity. But then they remove it.
Listen to what you said. Listen to the way you frame
it. That was. So go ahead, Ken. That was, because all I care about is that Joker can fight.
Well, hold on. No, it's more.
Can they fight?
It's worse. It's worse than that. You talked about them as if they were a lesser.
Right.
Like somehow that because they transitioned, that they couldn't pull the fucking trigger the same way.
Oh my gosh.
The way you talked about it.
Nah, bro.
That is how you said it.
Nah.
That's
It
mighty
may have come
judgmental.
across that way.
I don't agree with it, but I will
Listen,
say
if you want to go to battle with these generals, then go for it.
See?
What?
Just say that they're not equal to you. Just say it. Just say
It's
it.
sin, bro. It's
They're a
sin.
lesser
Are we
human.
battling sin or we
Hey,
fighting another
Rich,
country?
I have a suggestion. I have a suggestion for all you can replace any one of them. Anyone that has got pulled out because they were willing to pull the trigger, you can go replace them. You can go through basic training. You can go stand in the front line and have those sodomite generals look at you and they say, "Hey, I want that guy fighting for me." You can do that. You can always do that because they stepped up and they served their country. But we're going to penalize them because of their lifestyle.
Wow. Them other countries had the same thing. They might not be showing it, but they got the same thing.
Did you hear what he just said? Did you hear what he just said?
What is that?
You just said it, Tyron. They might not be showing it, and that's because it's shunned. It isn't embraced.
Rich, do you realize you're discriminating?
But they're not stopping anything. They're not stopping anything, though. Yeah. Look at what's going on in the Catholic Church. What went on with all those. So you can sit here and all you want to, like with some holier than thou.
And they're Christians.
I'm not trying to come across that way, brother.
But no,
listen,
I hate to
you guys keep conflating.
I hate to see if you did. We're telling you how you're coming across. And these are Christians who agree with you, and this is how you're coming across. At the end of the day, I might not agree with it, but at the end of the day, all I can do.
Listen, for all who watch this, I love you. All right, I love everybody. All right?
As long as you do what I think.
No,
as long as you put the Ten Commandments.
I just need you to understand that eternity is a long time.
A long time.
It's a long time. And
Rich,
the creator of all things, his son gave me salvation. I accepted him in my heart. And there's stuff that I'm still working on. All right.
We all are.
We all are. All right. And I may have come across as harsh, but it's more of a love for your eternal soul than it is for you to be pleased in this moment.
But guess what, Rich? You don't get to direct that. That's an individual choice.
As a tax-paying voter, I do have the right to vote my conscience based on what the politicians are telling me they're going to work toward.
Yeah, but your salvation is based upon you.
I do not have to vote to promote that. I do not have to vote to say it's okay, do as you please, go straight to hell. I do not have to do that, and I didn't.
So Rich, I've got a question for you. So you mentioned sin, right? All right, you're on mute right now, Ty, because I gotta get y'all wrangled back in. But look, Rich, you mentioned sin, right?
Yeah.
You're all for a guy like Pete Hegseth, who definitely committed sin. He cheated on his wife. I think he had a baby by another lady that wasn't married to. So it's okay for that type of guy to lead our military, but it's not okay for someone who has something else that you consider sin to not be in the military. So that's one thing I wanted to point out.
Can we clarify what you said? Because in that case, you said you. And my problem isn't with Rich trying to save these people. My problem is with the government.
The government.
Yeah. Hey, listen.
In the ultimate hypocrisy of it, I'm gonna say this real quick and get out of your way. The ultimate hypocrisy of it is you want the government to impose that they can push Jesus and everything on these kids, but you don't want the government to impose, hey, it's too dangerous, so give me them guns back. How much hypocrisy is it? How much is it? I mean, when I argue that the guns is a safety mechanism, all this you keep trying this, but at the end of the day, it's falling flat. And my plea to you, not even my plea, because I don't care what you do or not, but when you guys push in the Christian nationalism way, the way that you do, you make it really hard for non-believers to think you ain't worth that you're not full of shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think the government can save anybody. All right. But I sure don't think that the government should be encouraging other people as well to go to hell. Right. I just don't think that we should. The government should not be in the business of saving or sending people to hell. All right. It is the work of the church.
So Rich.
As the church, as the church is within the body of Christ, right? It is our conscience responsibility to vote, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. So when you vote, you're voting in alignment with what the principles of God are. You don't vote.
That's fine.
Oh, everything goes.
But Rich,
you don't do that.
Rich, what does that have to do with allowing someone to serve in the military?
With what now?
Allowing someone to serve in the military.
That
is gay or transgender.
Because it messes up the ethos of the military. When you've got cats walking around with heels on, all right, and they're men.
That's very rare.
And
that's very rare.
Oh, I mean, I'm not in the military. But I'm telling you, I'm trying. You asked me. I'm thinking that's the kind of stuff that they were dealing with.
Alex
I'm
on
not
the
in the military.
Rich, Alex on the podcast told us this not too long ago. It's not a big deal. Nobody gives a shit about it, right? It's very few trans. Let's talk about it in this way. There's very few transgender people in general.
So why would we bend? Why would we bend to them? Since there's so few of them, why are we bending to them?
How are you bending? How are you bending? What are you bending to? I mean, how are we bending?
Exactly. What are we bending to?
You're bending to them wanting to be human. Right? You're bending to them wanting to be who they are. You're bending to them wanting to have the same rights as you.
Right. Do you realize
you're bending to that? Okay, that's what you're bending to, and that's not right because it's not what you believe. So you shouldn't.
U.S. government, the U.S. government.
Rich, if you imagine if you were in a room and people that call themselves Christians were talking about black folks the way you were talking about transgender folks.
Many do.
And believe it, they
How would you feel about that?
Still do.
How would you feel about that?
I would be offended. I think I've already. I just said. I think I would be offended. I've already apologized for those who I've offended, but it doesn't change the fact that I don't believe that we should bend over for that lifestyle.
Have you ever taken any bias classes, Rich?
Well, after being on this, I might have to. The way you guys are coming at me, I'm
gonna share with you, brother. It may be a great idea for you to take one. And when I say that, I'm only saying for you to educate yourself about biases and how you perceive things. I've taken many of them. And I will tell you whether they're known to you or unknown.
Yeah, those are the ones.
It will be a wealth of knowledge for you.
You should go back and listen to the way you talked about those genders.
Just a wealth of knowledge to you, man. Because if you start to apply those things to life and life based upon your lens of what people have said and done to you, it is earth-shattering. And I'm just telling you my personal perspective of what it did for me. Because some of the things that we witness and we live through, we don't realize how it affects us and shapes us in our perception of what we think.
So
if you ever have an opportunity, man, take one.
With that
will
being
not
said,
regret it.
With that being said, in hearing me say all the things that I've said, what's going through your mind about what I've gone through?
Honestly, I'm hearing a bias based upon your personal beliefs. That's what I hear. Because at the end of the day, Rich, you've got to put yourself into a place to realize that people choose what they choose, regardless of how we think or feel about it. They choose it, right? And we cannot condemn them for their choices. Their choices apply to them and what works for them. I think Ken said it in the episode, maybe one of the first or second episodes, when we were talking about how people leave work on a Friday and they're a male.
Mm-hmm.
they come back to work on a Monday or Tuesday, they've had surgery and they're taking these medications to transform their gender. But they have to show up as a complete person in themselves, confident enough to walk into the workplace, to be able to contribute and feel as though they can contribute wholly to what they're doing and not be judged. Mm-hmm. It's earth-shattering, man. And I'm telling you this from a perspective of love. Take one of those classes. If your employer offers it to you, if you have to get one, I've taken probably 10 or so at this point. But just to understand the things that we pack with us and how we see the world, man.
So do they talk about the studies that psychologically, a lot of those people, even after having that done, there's a high suicide rate, that the situation didn't get addressed?
It's just not true.
It's
not true.
There is statistical evidence on that, Ken.
Most of the people who go through these things were unhappy until they transitioned, bro.
Right.
They already felt like they were the other if they already felt that they were one before they transitioned. It's just that I'm sorry, but that what you're is more of the propaganda associated.
Okay.
Not to mention, these are those people's choices, man. Right?
I have no heaven or hell to put anybody in. And again, I understand that's their choice. You guys keep conflating that I want to control I want to make sure that our school system is not promoting this stuff. Like you said, there's going to be people who are going to be homosexual no matter what.
No, you want to make sure our school is suppressing this stuff. Let's be very different. That you're no, because right, schools don't promote this. That's a fallacy too. Schools don't get into this stuff, man. It just don't.
But these books are all up in the library, right?
So, Rich, the focus of the books in the library is to make these people comfortable to where they can function in society and bring them and their entire selves and what they contribute to, whether it's education, personal development, being a student, whatever. They are comfortable in their skin to do it. It's not the negative twist that's going around, man. It's not the focal point.
Very good point on promoting.
That's not the focal point.
Very good point on promoting versus suppression, because Rich, you are clearly in the vote of suppression, while you think others are promoting. And to Ken's point, it's not being promoted. Those books have been in those libraries for years. Some of them are newer, yeah, but those books have been in there for years, and now they're being suppressed, so they're being sought out and removed. They're not being promoted. There's not teachers saying, "Hey, you should go read this book."
Right.
Hey, I want you to
sign up that says these books are here.
There's not. You're looking at Dewey Decimal System. They ain't a transgender section.
Right. In the library called the Resource Center.
Yes, kids don't use fucking libraries.
So if there is someone that's looking for that information, they have it. But how many people read every book in the library?
Nobody.
No one.
You know what I mean? I think it's kind of like the whole bathroom issue thing. It was never an issue until the legislature got involved.
Exactly.
It's kind of a made up issue, in my opinion. I wouldn't know if there was a book on transgenders. Well, I don't go to the library that often, but when I did, I wouldn't care if there was a book about transgender kids or gay kids. I'm probably not reading that book.
You didn't have any questions, Paul. You always like girls.
Yeah, but what if somebody does have questions? That's
so you think
the book defines should help them with that.
The book doesn't define them, Rich.
Yeah. And if somebody has that question, they have that question whether the book is there or not, right? Yes. That question doesn't go away because the book is there, and it's very if they want to go to their parents, that's fine. A lot of kids don't in general. Right? Your kids probably didn't know certain things. My kids didn't. Everybody on this podcast, kids didn't come to them with everything.
No.
And
So,
Pete,
you know,
this aligns to what you were talking about, Richard. Most of those kids who until they get someone to help them, encourage them to be, those are the kids with the issue. Because they already feel like something's wrong with them. They're struggling socially. They have health problems because they're not their full self. Like, do you know anybody's ever gone through a transition?
No.
So one of my sister's best friends, right, has 3 girls, and one of them, she ever since the day she was born, she's the most beautiful thing. I won't say her name out of respect. She had one of those really elegant names and had the face and everything to go with it. You just knew when she grew up that she was a princess because she was that glamorous in her look. That baby, from the time she was about 4 to the time she was 17, stayed in the hospital, really sick. She had all kinds of ailments of which they tried to treat her. They had her in rehab, all kinds of things. They couldn't find out what's wrong with her. Finally, she got a little bit well and got stronger and got enough confidence to tell people around her that she was gay. And not only was she gay, that she believed that she was a boy. And she immediately started the transition process at about, as soon as she graduated from high school, at 17, 18. And by the time she was 20 and 21, she became he, and he now has a girlfriend, and they're a couple. He is now 30 years old, thriving and way better as a man as compared to when she was a little girl. All because whether it was psychological, which matters, or physical, I have all kinds of health issues their entire life until they transition.
Wow. That's great insight, Kim. That is great insight. A lot of people don't look at it like that. Yeah, for sure. Okay. So I knew this was going to be a heated topic. Anything related to religion definitely is. But I'm glad that everybody was able to speak their mind. I'm glad that Rich, even though he's not here, he was able to speak his mind as well. Because they're people with these viewpoints on both sides, right? Mm-hmm. But we have to kind of understand where people are coming from and maybe try to move a little closer to the middle. You know, this, like Ty said, there's certain things that he agrees with that Rich says. It's maybe just a certain part of that, how we're trying to impose that he doesn't agree with. You know, so it's not that he disagrees completely. It's not that necessarily even Ken disagrees with everything Rich says completely, or maybe Rich doesn't disagree with everything Ken or anyone else says completely. But hopefully we can come to the middle at some point and try to get some solutions to some of these things. But again, I want to thank everyone for joining for joining today. This has been a very insightful podcast again, and looking forward to next time, gentlemen. Let's come up with some more great topics. I've got something I'm going to shoot to you coming up soon. All right, everybody have a good week. I appreciate it.
All right, brothers.
Good night, brothers. Have a good night.
My crew too fresh. You mad, huh? See us flexing in these streets. You mad, huh?